you'd mentioned you did some entrepreneurial things. What were you doing as you graduate, maybe during college, throughout this process? What were you doing entrepreneurially? Were there certain things you had to prep in your personal life or anything like that as you started to make that leap? You said you got serious about a year before you left. Like, what happened in that year? How did you find out in this process that this wasn't that maybe buying wasn't the best fit and you should start from scratch? What other types of businesses and services did you look at before you were like, I'm going to go in and buy a stump grinder? Where was the moment you're like, I have to put real cost into this idea? What other shows and podcasts you like? You referenced a lot of them. You mentioned the Corner podcast. What other shows do you like or resources can you provide for the audience here? All right, we're going to jump in here with Tyler Mumford. Tyler is from Utah Stump Bros. He had an amazing W-2, was doing sales across the board in the tech space, and of course, he wanted to buy a business. So we went down the buying business path. This is maybe a new segment we're going to call Don't Buy a Business, Start a Business Instead. And went down this path, realized at the age of 26, he didn't understand running a P&L. He didn't understand all the nuances he needed to be able to operate his own business. So what did he decide to do? He looked into franchising, right? Business in a box. Got down a little bit further and realized, hey, I'm going to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I don't know if I actually love doing this, right? Heard about this idea about stump grinding, and within a few weeks, he had rented out a stump grinder, which is thousands of pounds. He traded in his car for a new truck, and we actually talk about one of his ways that he tested the market without having to buy all that equipment. Then about 6 weeks, he was working his W-2 and stump grinding on the side, and he had his business up and running. So this is one of my favorite episodes. We're also going to dive into his journey of discovering that buying a business wasn't the right fit for him, why he went down the franchise path, and then, of course, how to exercise that entrepreneurial muscle right now. We just jump in, and we're live, dude. So, Tyler, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. We were talking before the show. I listened to your podcast probably the first time in like 2020 or 2021. So stoked to be on the other side of listening. This is awesome. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Right, here we are. And we have DMs from 4 or 5 years ago. It's awesome. And I don't know how we've never really connected and met in real life. So this is fun. We're getting in real life and then we'll change it. Meet in real life here.
Absolutely.
Tyler, you are like the most fascinating person on LinkedIn, Twitter, X, wherever right now. I want to dive into what you're doing with Utah Stump Bros, but I also like maybe give us some backstory. How did you get here? And we're going to dive into your business here.
Yeah, so I graduated from BYU in 2021, as most Utah guys do that wanted to do pre-med and decided last second not to. They go into tech sales. It's just it's the normal thing to do. So we got into tech here in Utah. Worked for it's not unique. So yeah, we got into tech. I loved it when I first started. I did door-to-door in college just to pay for school. Yeah, I did door-to-door in college, and slowly but surely, I didn't really like it, but it paid for school. I was decent at it. Went into tech right after graduating from BYU. Was in tech for about 3 to 4 years. Very interested in different entrepreneurship things to get me out of tech eventually, and ended up going and going out on my own, running a stump grinding business, about as niche of a service as it could possibly get. I used a lot of the B2B skills that I learned, in SaaS sales to slowly grow this in a B2B way with tree companies, landscape companies, fence companies, you kind of name it. And yeah, that's where I am today, just fully running Grind Time Stump Grinding. Utah Stump Pros is our URL. But yeah, that's what we're doing.
That's so awesome. Well, Tyler, I want to dive into a few things. You mentioned you did. Let's touch on the transition from W-2, from
Yep.
the tech industry to landscaping, basically. You'd mentioned you did some entrepreneurial things. What were you doing as you graduate, maybe during college, throughout this process? What were you doing entrepreneurially?
Yeah, door-to-door sales is it's definitely a job kind of, but it's kind of entrepreneurial. You're 1099. That was kind of my first intro. A lot of the guys there, there's a lot of bad apples in door-to-door, but there's a lot of good guys that use the money to go and invest and do different things, do different small businesses. So that's where I first kind of was introduced to doing things with your money outside of work. And then, when I was in B2B SaaS sales, it was more I've had a few run-ins with making some money on the side, just whether it's cleaning garbage cans. I tried that out. I tried a few different like random niche
This was
neighborhood
all on the side, so
services.
not full time, right? You hadn't quit
Yes.
yet? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
all on the side, just kind of reading. I found out about how, buying businesses, franchising. I was just poking around, reading, researching, listening to podcasts. It was more daydreaming about it, I guess, until I really got serious like a year or so before I kind of made the jump.
Were there certain things you had to prep in your personal life or anything like that as you started to make that leap? You said you got serious about a year before you left. Like what happened in that year?
Yeah, in that year, I wouldn't say there was, I've always been a money saver. So, like, we had a decent runway, if you will, or ability to be able to pivot and do things. I'm not loaded by any means, but I was able to make a jump once I found something I felt comfortable with. But in that year, it was more just taking all the podcasts and books and everything that I've read or listened to from before and actually get serious of like going down these routes of seriously looking to whether it's buy a business, start a business, some of the things that we might talk about here. It was just getting more serious and stop daydreaming about it, but actually taking some steps to see if I could actually make it happen. Is mostly what happened in that year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And before we jumped on here, Tyler, you'd mentioned, you're going down the buying a business route and you're going down the franchise route. What made and you said you disqualified yourself from that. What made you disqualify yourself from going that route? Similar to what you did is pre-med, right? And you're like, I don't want to do pre-med. I'm making this shift here. Like life is a constant shift of,
Yeah.
reinventing yourself. How did you find out in this process that that maybe buying wasn't the best fit and you should start from scratch?
Yeah, so I think it was 2020 or 2021 when I first DM'd you. I think I heard, or I got, someone told me about the book Buy Then Build, which is like the classic, like you read it and you want to go
Yeah,
buy
it's
a
like the
business.
Bible for ETA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I read it and I was like, oh, I'm going to go buy a business. This is great. My life's figured out, And I think I then started listening to like your podcasts, and there's a few others out there that I still listen to today, by the way, because I do not think the path is uh, the wrong path. It was just the wrong path for me at the time in 21, because I started getting on Biz by Sell, or, like thinking about like buying a business. And then I realized I was like, dude, I have no money. I don't have a finance background or like an MBA. I have no one that would really probably trust me with like a big amount of money to go invest in a business. I've never ran a business before. Like, let's just have some real talk with myself. I was 26 at the time. I was like, let's be a little bit more realistic and maybe start from a lower tier and maybe come back to buying a business at some point. And so I went to the next step, which is what I felt was the next step of looking into franchising. There's a lot of service franchises out there that are super interesting. I think some are great. Some probably, there's probably some bad apples in the franchise game. And even that, though, when I got to the finish line, I actually got really close to signing on the dotted line with a franchise called Hoods. So they're like a commercial hood vent cleaning franchise for restaurants. So really gross, greasy, disgusting night job. And I still love that business. I think it's reoccurring. I think it's awesome. I just got scared because even that was a lesser investment, but you're talking signing on the dotted line for like a 200K, 250K SBA loan, which is a lot of money at my age. And so I kind of got cold feet, backed out from there, and then still listened to a few other podcasts that I really liked that were more just entrepreneurial growth hack stuff. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to try something on the side of work and just get my feet under me entrepreneurially and just see if I can go make a dollar myself, or go make a few dollars myself before I start signing on the dotted line of some big loans that I could lose my house. I could lose a lot of things if those loans go the other way.
Yeah, house, marriage, confident, a lot of things happen with that. You
Yep.
we got to talk offline about this hood franchise. I had a massive hood when I had my candy factory. People don't
Yeah.
realize every restaurant has a hood and they've got suspension systems, fire
Dude.
suppression systems. They're crazy expensive. They're super hard to maintain. They get way dirty. And when you see a restaurant burn up, it's because they didn't clean them right. It's because they
Yep.
didn't clean the grease. So I love that business. That's interesting. So what's cool is at a young age, like I would say young, 26, like you identified the stages of life that you're in. And you're like, hey, let me go make a dollar myself, right? And
Yep.
that's a really important distinction because a lot of times people are like, let me go buy this business, but they've never owned a P&L. They've never had to do sales. They never had to hire, fire, and own that whole process. And then you tack on the stress of the debt, and it can be a lot for people to
Yep,
handle.
totally. And yeah, that's the thing. That's with my journey. It didn't close off any of those different stages that I kind of disqualified myself from. I still would franchise something or I would still go buy a business. But now, even just 8 months into running what I run now, I am like 100 times more confident in my ability to go run something than I was, just as a SaaS sales rep. So I think it's a great way to just see if you like the day to day of being responsible of paying all of your bills. It's a whole different feeling, having that all be on your shoulders. I personally have found that I've loved it, but I had no idea. I just daydreamed about it. I had no idea if I'd really like it day to day. And so this experience has allowed me to like really know what I like and dislike about being out on my own.
Yeah. Well, when you're in sales, all revenue is good revenue. When you own your own business, you're like, hey, I'm not going to, not all revenue is good revenue. I don't want to go drive 2 hours for a $100 job. Like it doesn't make sense. Right.
Yep.
Um, was there, when you're talking about like you're 100 times more confident, was there something, as we dive into like you starting your stump grinding, what other types of businesses and services did you look at before you were like, I'm going to go in and buy a stump grinder?
Yeah, so hood vent cleaning I looked into, like I already mentioned. I looked into a bunch of different home service type businesses. My thing though, I didn't want something that I felt I could have a high schooler compete with me doing. That was kind of my line. Is like I just didn't want it to be something that like trash bin cleaning. The kid in your neighborhood could compete with you in that, and there's not a lot of tools or anything that really separates. And so I just wanted
Well, you're
something.
competing with a garden hose, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
I just wanted to step up a little bit in equipment. Nothing like that would bankrupt me, but something that not anyone can just do. And so I've initially heard the stump grinding idea from another podcast, Chris Corner. He's pretty
Chris
famous.
is awesome. He's a
Yeah,
great
Chris.
fellow. Yeah.
He's awesome. He's on Twitter. It was from his podcast that I heard the stump grinding idea originally, but he pitched it in a B2B way, which I don't think it was the service itself that stuck out to me. It was how he pitched it because he runs a tree company in Dallas, and he was saying, "Hey, stump grinding is something that's commonly needed. You could do this just in a B2B way for tree companies and landscape companies." And so that kind of was the spark. It wasn't as much the service, it was my skill set. I was like, oh, I can reach out to tree companies. Like, let me try that. And so it slowly went from there, doing it on the side of work, and then going full time in about a month and a half from hearing the podcast.
You can't replace someone's willingness to take action. And you go from full-time job to 6 weeks later, you're like, I own my own business and I've got a stump grinder and I've done a bunch of jobs. Like you can't replace the speed that you're acting in. So I want to get into your SaaS background, how you're scaling this stump. Give people a rundown. What is a stump grinding business? What do you do?
Yeah. So we run a big commercial. This is not the stump grinder rental that you see from Home Depot. It looks like a 10-foot long tractor. You don't sit on it, you drive it on the side with controls. And it's a big, basically spinning blade. It spins like 2,800 times per minute. So like really fast, has these teeth on it. And basically it just slowly chips down a stump. And so, that is what we provide is stump grinding and root removal and all of that. We can take a stump and grind it down to 18 inches below grade, so that someone can use that part of their yard again to replant a tree or do whatever they need in that area. On the business side, so that's the service, we provide that. I started fully providing it B2B, so to tree companies, landscape companies. Now we've trickled down into fence companies and concrete companies. And so they just hit me up when they have stumps for me. I take care of it for them. It's a win-win because most tree companies or landscape companies don't do enough stumps to have this machine themselves. So it just makes sense to use me. I'm cheaper than a rental for them, and I'm a lot faster, do it a lot better, and they don't have to upkeep a stump grinder. And so that's kind of where I come in is in that B2B way. Now I've started slowly scaling like the B2C, and I'm getting a lot more there directly from Google. But it started completely B2B, just reaching out to those companies.
What I love about that too is you use your SaaS background of reaching out to companies to like, how do I take a B2B approach and do this at scale? So you don't need to go sell every single homeowner. Obviously, you do homes individually, but you don't need to go sell every single homeowner because that tree company is doing a backyard every single day. multiple backyards a day. So they know who to call to get something done. And it just is almost a repeatable revenue source for you.
It really is. It's like it's not recurring, it's reoccurring with the same my customers are my companies that I work for, if that makes sense. I don't consider like the person that I'm grinding the stump for the customer. I consider the tree company the customer, and I work for the tree company. And so really I just, you have to get in with a few of them, and the more that you can get in with, the more reoccurring revenue comes from those jobs. And those jobs are awesome. Like there's $0 in marketing spend that happen. And they're just texting me, say, show up to this job at this date and get this done. I do it and I get paid. Like it's really, really simple. And there's a lot of sub services like this in the blue collar space, where if you get in with the right companies, you can make some really good money and not do a lot in marketing.
Yeah, you have no marketing budget, and then all of a sudden your margins are can get pretty wild. Was there a
Yeah.
moment where you're like, I got to go buy this machine? It's in another state. It's in Colorado. I got to, get a trailer. I got to get a truck. Like, where was the moment you're like, I have to put real cost into this idea?
Yeah. So I heard
Above
the
$1,000.
podcast.
Above a thousand
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah, for sure. I heard the podcast on July 11th. They talked about trying this idea in a different state so you don't burn your own leads. And so I actually scraped a list of tree companies in Boise, texted them all, and it was like, hey, I provide stump grinding in the area. Do you need stump grinding, basically? And I started getting hits really fast, like really fast. I was not up in Boise, and this just like showed to me. I was like, if this is needed in Boise, it's probably needed in my area.
Which
So
is
that
a
gave me the
tiny
confidence.
market. It's
Yeah,
tiny. It's a fraction of the size. Yeah.
tiny, and I was getting hits right away. And so I was like, okay, this is probably has legs here. And so it gave me confidence to go look into all of the things you're talking about. I traded in my car for a truck. I found a month rental for a dump trailer on Facebook Marketplace for like $800. And then the machine that I rented for a month was expensive. It's the machine that I currently, the same model of machine I currently use. So that was like $4,500 for a month. And so I was looking at it and I was like, all right, this is, with the trailer and the stump grinder, I'll be in the hole $5,300 if I never get a job. But I was like, I know I won't get zero jobs. Like I won't let myself get zero jobs.
You
So
can
that
always
was
drive
kind
to
of,
Idaho. You can always
dude,
drive 4 hours, five
yes.
hours to Boise and get it done.
And at the end of the day, if I burn 5 grand, it sucks, really sucks, and I would be mad. But yeah, we're not going underwater from that amount of money. So that was kind of the gamble. And so I pulled the trigger. I got the picked up the rental on a Wednesday, and I had my first job that Saturday. And then we did 9 grand in revenue in August, and that was with a full-time sales job. So that was in the morning, nights, and weekends. And then we left the job at the beginning of September and have been running since then.
You're like pulling up to your tech job, and you're like parking like 300 yards away so
Dude,
people see your
oh
trailer.
my goodness, dude. Yes, that's exactly right. I parked like 2 buildings away with my trailer hooked up to my truck because I never wanted anyone to. And I would go to lunch with guys and be like, oh, dude, I don't, my wife dropped me off today or
Can you
whatever. And my
drive?
truck's like, yeah, exactly. So I'd drive with someone else, because I would have like a 10-foot tractor basically on the back of my truck, 2 parking lots away.
Yeah, and of course I know you went for the $110,000, F-350, right? You go
Of
big,
course.
right?
Yeah, yeah, no. Yeah, F-150. It does. I mean, it is a nice truck. It's nice. It was not brand new. It was used. But I definitely
You need something
part
that's
of,
going to tow something that weighs a couple thousand pounds, right? You got a couple tons
yeah,
back.
yeah. I wish I got a 250, but it's a
Did you know how to
150.
run this machine? You're like, okay, let's go back to YouTube. Let's figure out how to run this thing.
YouTube. That's exactly right. I mean, I watch guys run them on YouTube, and then there's like a video that comes with the machine's brand is called Bandit. So Bandit puts out product videos of each of their machines. And so I just watched the product video like 4 or 5 times, showed up to my first job, and I was in this like it was a perfect job for my first job. It was a huge backyard. I was in the back of their backyard, so they didn't know how bad I was at actually grinding a stump. And I figured it out. It took me way too long, but we figured it out. And then the second job I was way better. And then by like a few weeks in, I was pretty good at it.
It's okay to look dumb at the beginning, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
you probably are asking yourself at some certain point, you're like, why am I doing this? Right? Like, I had this cushy job. I had this, it was air conditioned. I had unlimited monsters. It was
Yep.
just covered.
Amen.
And then all of a sudden
Amen.
you find yourself in the hot sun in the middle of August. August summer in Utah sucks. And you're
It's
like,
hot.
what am I doing here? Was there a moment, you're grinding that first stump, or you're just like, was it just like, Red Bull to your veins of excitement, and you're like, I'm doing this. This is so fun. Like what was your reaction there?
My first like 5 jobs, I was like, this is the best feeling I've ever had in my life. Like I was so pumped just because I was like,
Yeah.
I felt a little bit like a poser from 2021 to 2024 because I had been reading books, listening to podcasts, telling people about like my dreams, and I never done anything to like actually earn a dollar myself. And so I hate, I don't know. I don't enjoy people that are always telling you something and it's not happening in the background. And I started feeling like that person. And so when I started actually getting the first jobs, I was stoked. Now, there were a few that went wrong a few weeks later, and there was definitely some moments where I was like, what am I doing? Like I did second guess, but for the first few weeks, it was just, I felt amazing. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's a freeing feeling. It's a freeing feeling. You're making your own dollar on your own, right? Your
Yep.
first dollar on your own, but you're becoming the person that you were wanting to become for the last several
Yes,
years, maybe last decade. And
exactly.
when you start to realize, and you're not like going in, you're hiding who you are. You're hiding your identity by hiding your truck 3 blocks away, and you've got one, you're like, you bought a truck, and they're like, hey, why'd you buy a truck? And
Yep.
then you're throwing this like $5,000 a month machine. On the flip side, you're actually internally torn. You're like, I'm doing these sales calls, but I really want to be out building my business. And you can't be good when you're torn like that. And so there's this freeing
Yep.
feeling of not only making your first dollar, but of just being who you want to become, and
Yep.
living it, right? Like that source of pride and that source of confidence, it's hard to replace.
Yeah, and I get it from people that I worked with before. They're just like, you seem happy, you seem different, you seem. I'm still friends with a ton of guys that are in tech. It's just they notice those things, and it's like, yeah, this is. I actually feel like this is me every single day. I love it. I love what I do. I work way more than I did in tech, but I like working way more than I did in tech, so it balances out. And yeah, I totally agree. I've never had anyone be able to explain it as well as you just did, where you feel torn and you feel like you're not 100% being you. You're 50% in a bunch of different areas. And so since then, just being able to tell people, yeah, dude, I take care of stumps. That's what I do. It's a funny thing to talk about because it's such a niche service, but it's what I do all day, every day, and it's awesome.
No, it's because I lived it. I lived it for a long time of having to pretend like I was somebody else.
Yeah,
What
totally.
Look, we got about a minute or two left. Two questions for you. One is three questions. One is, what other shows and podcasts you like? You referenced a lot of them. You mentioned the Corner podcast. What other shows do you like, or resources can you provide for the audience here?
Yep. I listen to your podcast. I listen to Chris Corner. The Corner Office is his podcast I mentioned. Austin Gray runs the Owner Ops podcast. I always shout him out because it's really good for like if you're interested in blue collar trades. That's kind of all his podcast is about. And then trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, on the side of ETA, like I said, I still love ETA. I think buying a business is in my future potentially. I like acquiring minds as well. That's a big podcast in the ETA space. I listen to those episodes. Will's great. So, um, yeah, those are pretty much it.
Love it. Awesome. You're doing one of the most creative ways to make money, but this is a question I always ask. What's a creative way you've seen someone make money?
Yeah, we covered two creative ways of this, and then cleaning hood vents. But I'll give you another one. I was at a job the other week, and a lot of tree companies, if they don't want to haul big logs, they'll cut them up into pieces, and then they'll post them on Facebook Marketplace in whatever city they're in, and say, "Hey, free firewood to people." And so I'm usually there when someone's picking up the firewood because I'm coming in for the stump, and there's firewood left there. And so I'm finishing up this stump job coming out the front, and there's a bunch of guys, grabbing the wood and leaving. And I was just thinking they were a firewood business, and the guy comes up and he's like, "Oh, we make these super nice custom salad bowls out of these big logs, and we just grab free wood from tree companies when they post it, and we make them these beautiful." He showed me a few bowls. It was the coolest company I've ever seen. So yeah, that's a great way, a great niche way to make money. I thought they were awesome.
That's so cool. We had a couple years ago in 2020, we had a 40-foot mulberry tree fall over in our backyard in our prior house, hit our house and everything. We had to pull off 17,000 pounds of tree off our house. It was wild. It was like a 70-foot crane, But they take all those trees and they put them in the street, and they have to come like grind them up and mulch them up and everything. And before they did that, we ran out there, my father-in-law and we cut up some of these trunks into these chairs for our kids, and now we have these stumps. It just reminds me of like there's so many things you can do when you're like, oh, it's just this tree that's fallen down. And there were people going around and like, just, oh, I'm a woodworker, I picked this up, or like I don't know what you call it, the turners, when you're like making the bowls, and they would like go pick up these like stumps and then chop them up themselves and do it. It just
It's
blew my
amazing.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I got one more for you too. This is a dream from like a subcontractor model that I'm doing with stump grinding to be able to do the same thing. There's huge grapple saw trucks that are a mixture of like a crane and a chainsaw, and so they can reach over houses and grab branches off of trees, and you could take out trees. You could take out like a full tree, like a huge tree, in like 20 minutes with these things. So my dream is to have one of these machines and subcontract out to tree companies and just show up, take the tree out for them, take my cut, or take half of the tree job cost or whatever. Those are like 500 grand machines though. So, it's
So
that's
next month,
yeah, next month. Exactly.
Tyler, this has been amazing. Where can people find you and follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn at just Tyler Mumford, and then my Twitter handle or X handle is at StumpGuyTy. I'm tweeting. I don't really pull any punches in what I tweet. I pretty much tweet everything that's going on with the business at all times. So if you
The
want
good
to
and the bad.
follow
You
along,
gotta
yeah,
follow
the
him.
good, the bad,
It's awesome.
exactly. Yeah, it's fun. I'm just out in the field, just tweeting the most random stuff that happens to me day to day, and yeah, follow me and connect with me there.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, thanks so much for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right. Thanks for checking out the Let's Buy a Business channel. If you want to learn more, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest tips on acquiring businesses. We've also got our newsletter, which you can also subscribe to here, where you want to get the latest tips and deals that are happening right now. These are live deals. And then, of course, with the link below, you can join our course and memberships for the most serious searchers out there, and you want to get serious results.